Let's get started. I'm Cassie Koelsch. I am a software engineering manager at BookNook. And today we are going to be talking about pull requests and learning how to do pull requests, specifically in relation to contributing to an open source project. So if you are doing this kind of thing in a work situation, it might be a little bit different than this, but we're going to go through this. As to learn how to do open source software so that we can get prepared for next month. First, we're going to start by talking about the difference between Git and GitHub. I find a lot of times that this is confusing to people, that Git and GitHub they're two different things. Git is a version control system. When you're coding, you are often going to be wanting to save different versions of your work so that you can roll back and go back and change what you did if you didn't like what you did. How many of you here have used Git before? Most. Okay, awesome. And then GitHub is a platform, an online platform for collaborating with code using Git. So the difference, you could kind of think about it, if you are using Git, you're using that on your computer, just like as if you were writing a Word document. You're writing it by yourself on your computer. And GitHub is the cloud. So if you were taking your Word document and you wanted to collaborate with other people, you put that on Dropbox or on Google Drive and put it in the cloud and share it with others. That's what GitHub does. You put your Git in the cloud and then you can collaborate with other people. So today we're going to go through how to do a pull request with using Git. Now, some things that are kind of expected is that you have used a command line. We are going to go through the command line. You can use Git with like a desktop software, but we're not going to do that today. I really encourage you to learn how to use it in the command line if you can. So it's expected that you know some basic command line bash commands, and then also that you already have Git installed on your computer. We'll talk through it. I'm going to talk through this workflow really quick, and then we will actually walk through it. So when you're starting, the first thing you want to do when you're going to contribute to an open source software, so you want to find that one that you're going to contribute to. Once you've found it, then you're going to fork it. Now, this idea of forking, I like to think of it like a fork in the road. I am going to take the code from that owner's GitHub, and I'm going to fork it over to my own GitHub account. So it's a copy, but it's now in my own GitHub so that I can make changes and it's not going to affect the owner's code. It's just on my account, right? And then once I've done that, I put it on my own account. Then I need to put it on my computer, because remember that's GitHub in the cloud. Now I need to put it on my computer so that I can actually do the editing. And that's where cloning comes in. So after I have forked it and taken it from their repository now to my own, and I will say a repository is just a collection of the files and folders of a project. So I'm going to take their project and move it over to my own, and then I'm going to clone it to my computer. Then once it's on my computer, then I can open up my code editor and edit the code however I need to edit it, right? Then I'll save it. Now, saving is different than creating a version of it, right? So just because I've saved it on my own computer doesn't mean I've committed a version. So the next piece that I need to do is commit a version in Git. But Git doesn't know which files that I want to add to my version, so I need to git add. That's the next piece. And once I have added my files to Git and told it which files that I want to commit, then I commit it. That's like a save. It's a version of the code in a place where I want to remember that I could go back to, right? Kind of like a timestamp. So once you've committed the code, you can commit multiple commits if you want, but You have to have a commit in Git, a version of it, in order to do your pull request. So once you've done that, now that's only on my computer, and I need to get that back up to the cloud in GitHub, so my next step is to push it. So I push it up with Git Push back to my own account. So I've still not touched the code owner's code. I'm still in my own account. After I've Git pushed, now it's in the cloud, right? And then once I'm back on the cloud, now I can actually make a pull request over to the owner's code to get my code into theirs. And there's usually, I get the question a lot, pull request, shouldn't it be a push request? If you think about it like this, you are requesting that the owner pull your code into theirs. That's where the pull is. You're not pushing your code into theirs. They're pulling it in. You're getting their permission. That's why you're requesting it. So you ask the owner of the code, can you pull my code into yours? And if they approve it, then that's where it is merged. And so then you would have the code owner will merge your code into theirs, and you have then contributed to open source. So let's get started. I'm going to walk through this, and feel free if you want to walk through with me. We're going to be using this repo that's in my GitHub account, Cassie Koelsch, and it's pinned at the top if you go to Cassie Koelsch /learning pull request. But like I said, if you just go to Cassie Koelsch on GitHub, you can also see it's pinned at the top. This is the repository that we're going to contribute to, right? So I am going to swap over here. This is another GitHub account. This is just my second GitHub account. It says I have no repositories. So this is as if for you, this would be your GitHub account wherever you log in, right? And then in another tab over here, this is the pull request that we're going to contribute to. And this is an open repository. So if you want to do this with me, you can also contribute to this one. So the first thing we're going to do, if we remember, I'm going to pull back here so we can keep looking at it. We're going to fork it, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this repository that I want to contribute to, and up here in the top is the button that says fork. And since I am already logged in, I can click fork, and it's going to know that I want to create a new fork in my own account. I'm going to be the owner of it, and I'm just going to keep the same name, keep the same description, and I'm going to leave the master branch over. We're not really going to talk about branching today. We're just going to stick on the master branches. And then I would create fork. So now, if you notice up here, I have a different, this is my, the account that we're in right now. I have a full copy. If I refresh here, I have a full copy of this fork of this repository that's now in my own account where I can make the edits and the changes without affecting the owner's code, right? And when you're contributing to open source library, they'll usually have directions or guidelines for contribution, so make sure you read those. For this one, it's pretty easy. You just add your name to the README is how the contribution to this works. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're going to add to the README. So we've just forked it. Now remember, now we're still in the cloud. Now it's on my own account, but it's still in the cloud. Now I need to pull that down to my own computer. So I am going to open up my terminal here. I am in a directory or a folder that I made on my computer called projects, and I want to clone it to my computer. I'm going to use this. I need to go back here to my GitHub, and I'm going to click the green code button drop down, and I am going to clone it. Depending on how you have your GitHub authentication, right now I'm using HTTPS, but you may have SSH set up, however you set up your GitHub. So I'm going to copy that and go back to my terminal, and I'm going to use the command git clone until I did this before because it likes to populate. And then I'm going to paste that URL that I copied over and then press enter. And it's just cloning or copying that down to my computer. You see how it says it received it, and it's done. So if I was to do ls, which lists what I have in my directory, I can see that I now have that folder. So I am going to change directories and move into that folder now. That's what CD does, is moves you. So now I'm in the folder on my own local computer, and we're going to open it up in our code editor and actually do the code edits now. So I have VS Code set up where I can just open it from here. So I'm just going to open it in VS Code. But you could also open VS Code or whatever you use and go File to Open. Essentially, in this repository, there's only one file called README. As you can see, it's a markdown file where everyone who's contributed has just added their name. And I'm just going to add my name back to the bottom. Some people are doing some fancy markdown. You don't have to do that. You also don't even have to use your real name if you don't want to. But I'm going to add a name to the bottom. And I do need to save my file. But if you remember in our steps, we've forked it, we've cloned it, now we've updated the code and we saved the file, but we now still need to make a commit. So we haven't saved our version yet. So now I'm going to go back over to my terminal. And one of my favorite commands is get status. It kind of just tells me where things are at. So if I look at here, my get status says, I'll actually close this, maybe make it look a little easier to read here. Okay. If you look at my status here, my branch is up to date with the original branch, and it says I have changes that I made. I saved a file, but they're not staged for commit yet. I haven't told Git that I want to save those files. And so it actually, if you read through here, it actually tells you how to do it. You can use get add. We're going to use get add, and I am going to use the period, which just says add all the files. So I'm going to add all the files that we've changed, which if you look right here with the red, there's only one file anyway. I'm going to add that. I'm going to do a get status again to see how that's changed. Now my file is green, and it says it's been staged for a commit. Ready? These are the changes that I'm going to commit to. And so my next step is to actually commit those files. Get commit. And I'm going to use this flag -m to add a message to my commit. If you don't do that, it will open up your Vim editor, which many people have learned the hard way. You can get kind of stuck in there if you don't understand Vim very well. So the -m is a really good trick. It keeps you out of there. So I'm going to add a message that says what I did for my commit. So if I need to go back to this version, I can remember later why I saved it. Okay? And then I'm going to do my get status again and check and see where it's at. Now it says on branch master, your branch is ahead of master by one commit. So my local computer has one more commit than GitHub in the cloud does, right? So if we remember, we've added it, now we've committed it. Now we need to push that back to the cloud with Git Push so that the commit that we just did on our computer is back up in the cloud, right? Now, I've already set up my authentication, so Git Push should just work for me. And it did. It pushed the objects up there. And if we go back to GitHub, which is down here somewhere, there we go. Now, if I refresh here, now you can see in the cloud on GitHub, it says this branch is one commit of Cassie Koelsch master. And so this is one commit ahead of the original owner's code master, right? And this button right here, contribute, is where I'm going to go to start my pull request. So I've taken it from my computer and pushed it up to GitHub, and now it's in my own account, but I want to ask the owner of the code to merge it into theirs. So I need to create a pull request. After I've gone to contribute, I can open a pull request. Now here's another place where you'll probably want to make sure you're following whatever guidelines for contribution is on that project. But it's always good to leave some kind of note or comment about why you're making the change to help them to be able to evaluate if this change is a good change to merge. Yeah, the question is, should you include screenshots or code examples in your commit messages? Absolutely. I mean, the more information that you can provide, the better. Definitely follow those guidelines that they put forward, but if you can also add those, it's going to help them have a better understanding. Even GIFs, if you can make little video GIFs of the code that you did, if you did a front-end change, those really help the person reviewing your code to know what changes you made. I'm just going to add a quick little message. If I can type. Okay, and then I am going to create a pull request. So now my code is sent to the owner of the code, and they're going to review my code and merge it in. So at this point, I am done. And I have hopefully been approved for merge, and my code will successfully merge in. So that was very quick, I know. I can post this link in the Slack channel, if you guys like. And that repository has been open for many years and will continue to be open. So please feel free to add your name as you're learning. If you have any questions as you go through this as well, you can always reach out to me on Twitter or on Slack. Is there any questions here today? Uh-huh. Okay, the question was when we did git add, if and I did git add period to add all of my files. Do you have to add all of your files, or can you just add certain files? You can absolutely just add certain files, and there's many times that you probably want to. You maybe made a change in a file that doesn't relate to the change in your pull request. It's always a good idea to keep the code that you're writing all related to the same change. And if you're making a change for two different things, then it's good to make a different commit for the other change you're making. So in those cases you would just get add and then put the path to the file that you want to add. And you can do that you can do each file if you want multiple times. Other questions? Very good, awesome. If you think of questions later, just like I said, reach out to me on Twitter or on the Techlahoma Slack. I am Cassie Koelsch. Thanks.